County Board of Commissioners meeting to an order. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Bretham, Mattis Castillo.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega. Reinhardt.
Here.
Carter.
Here. Thank you very much. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The agenda of July 6th is before you.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on our agenda? Will we please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega. Reinhardt.
Aye.
Bretham, Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you. And the agenda is passed. The minutes from June 22nd are before you.
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. I'll turn to County Manager O'Connor for our COVID update.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Good morning. I'm going to invite Deputy County Manager and no longer Interim Public Health Director Kathy Hedin up to provide today's COVID-19 update.
I know.
Congratulations.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you.
We'll hear more about that later, right?
Well, right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. Good morning, Chair Carter and Commissioners. Before we do give a quick update around vaccination percentages, I do want to highlight some big news. So exciting. Sarah Hawley, currently one of our racial and health equity administrators, will be our next public health director starting on July 26th. Soon to be Director Hawley has worked in state and local government for 17 years in the areas of maternal and child health, health policy, chronic and infectious disease prevention, health promotion, and community and family health, among other things. Sarah was hired into the Public Health Department 3 years ago as the second RIA, is that right? The second Racial and Health Equity Administrator, and has built relationships with many staff across all levels of the department, the service team, and the county. Public health staff are excited and poised to work with Sarah as she begins her new role as director at the end of the month. Sarah's commitment to community, to racial and health equity, and her ability to hold herself and other system leaders accountable are a few of the qualities, many qualities, that helped her earn her new role here at the county. A huge congratulations to you, Sarah. We're all looking forward to your leadership, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you as Director of Public Health into the Health and Wellness Service team. Congratulations.
This is so exciting. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor, Deputy County Manager Hedin. Dr. Angela Davis once stated, "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept." As your next St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health Director, it's important to me to develop a shared vision for public health that is targeted towards improving the health of communities most impacted by racial and ethnic health inequities, to change the narrative about what creates health through an asset-based lens, and one that is intentional in centering and connecting community through a shared vision and decision-making with residents and community partners. Over the last year and a half, our COVID-19 response has shined a glaring light on what public health is and its function. My hope is that we continue to build on our understanding and knowledge of public health that continues to push us upstream towards prevention, innovation, and community-led and driven initiatives and systems change. Starting July 26th, it will be an honor to work alongside and in collaboration with the many public health advocates and practitioners that represent our health department, community agencies, and residents as your next public health director to be a part of changing things we cannot accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. We have appreciated as we've watched your work over the long haul, and particularly through our COVID recovery, which of course we are still in.
We are.
We are so looking forward to your leadership, to the calm and the presence that you bring, and also to the focus on community-led change. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, so we
Thank
are
you.
prepared to move on with you and your leadership.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Sarah will begin to join us up here more and more in the coming weeks, but today I'll turn it back to Kathy.
Thank you. So excited, so very excited for so many reasons. All right, lots of people had a nice long weekend, which is great, but it means our website is a little behind on data, and we'll get that updated this week. So I'll give you a few verbal updates around where we're at with vaccination percentages and a few other key notes, and then turn it over to questions if you have any of those. 76% of our residents aged 16 plus have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. That's fantastic. 75% of our residents 12 plus have also received at least one dose. We continue to work within specific areas within our county to improve those vaccination percentages, and hope to have that update to you later this week with the Social Vulnerability Index maps. More than 53,000 doses have been administered at 258 clinics from our St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health Department and our team of amazing staff who are still at it. This week, just like last, we continue to administer around 400 doses per week. There was a really nice article in the Pioneer Press, if you caught it this weekend, about Mark Jackson, who you know, who has been leading our testing and vaccination efforts. Really amazing background, and you can understand why that we've had such great success with Mark and team leading within our Ramsey County system and public health department. So it's been great. And it was a nice article to read about him too. And then finally, recently, our essential services lead, Emily Heeman, those of you who know her as Emily from our SOS work, Emily Heeman and one of our lead epidemiologists, Norm Moore, learned that more than 70% of people who have received essential services. So if you recall, when you get COVID and you get the call from a contact tracer and a contact investigator, you get offered essential services so you can stay home in quarantine. 70% of those who are eligible for vaccine have actually not yet received a COVID vaccine. So kudos to them for figuring out this really important piece of information so that they can adjust and work with our outreach staff and our team to ensure that they do have access and good understanding of why it's important that they still get vaccinated even though they've had COVID. This week, residents will be receiving a mailer to encourage them to get their vaccine. We'll work with them to identify vaccine clinics in their neighborhood, talk about any type of pop-up events, or even make special accommodations to those who may have problems leaving their homes. We'll have nurses and others on staff available to answer questions for them too once they get those mailers. That is our update for today. Happy to take questions. Dr. Ogawa is here. Incident Commander Laura Anderson is also here.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Reinhardt, did I see you needing to ask a question?
No, I just, I didn't, but I'll talk anyway. No, I mean, the information that was provided is pretty stunning, actually, when you think about the essential services. But yes, and also just that I was really thrilled to have Sarah come on as our public health director, and also the article. It really highlights the fact that we care.
Yes, I did see a lip drop or something of that sort, like, wow.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing the thought behind that. I really appreciate, we all do, the update that you've provided today. Congratulations on your ability to, effective July 26th, separate the health director from the deputy county manager, being one. Looking forward to that, and thank you so much for your leadership and growth of those who are in your employ, to this level so that we see Sarah Hawley now as our health director. That is a very, very big deal for our county. I also wanted to just ask if you would reflect a little bit as you talk about those who've received essential services, those who have had to be quarantined and have needed assistance from us, about the need for the ongoing vaccinations to happen, even though they have had COVID. Could you talk a little bit about what the science says there?
Absolutely.
And I see that our more scientific-minded medical director is coming up to handle that question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Chair Carter.
Just wanted to give you a chance to sit down.
Yay.
So the number was alarming to all of us, in terms of us wanting to make sure that people who have had COVID already recognize the importance and the need to get a vaccine. We know there's some immunity after you get it naturally, but we know that the ability to fight the infection lasts considerably longer after a vaccine. And so that's why it's exceptionally important to get the vaccine still, even after you've had the infection. And I think that that's been lost sometimes in the messages in the media. And some of the numbers that we're seeing may reflect the people who recently had the infection, which also the recommendations initially were that you wait 3 months after having the infection before you get the vaccine. However, that's changed now. The CDC has now come out saying that you can get the vaccine whenever it's available after you've had the natural infection. And so that's the other message that we're getting out to the people through essential services now, is that you can get the vaccine sooner rather than later, and it's probably better.
Thank you. I really do believe that that message has been lost, and just the pure fact that 70% of those had not yet been vaccinated means that we have to shout through the rooftops, do it now, do it today, and that it will make a difference.
There was also some initial information that came out of the media that if you had COVID and you received the vaccine, you would sometimes feel some of those symptoms again. And so I think it scared a lot of people, especially those who had been quite sick. The same information now is that it's not like you have COVID again. And so you may have some of those symptoms, but not nearly as bad.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the update. Are there any other questions? Yes, go ahead, County Manager.
Madam Chair, just before we leave, I wanted to acknowledge, in the arc of how this all works as we get to announcing a new public health director, Kathy has served in 2 roles for the past 9 months or so, if I'm doing the math on that. And before that, Karen Saltis stepped in an interim deputy county manager role and served at the beginning of the pandemic to allow Kathy in her role as the public health director to function. And it shows the strength of bench and the continuity and work together as an entire team. And I'm only naming a few people. Diane Holmgren stepped up in public health, and many others. And so just a shout out to everybody who makes those transitions possible. And it's great to be one person, one seat again. And we'll continue to step up and build that bench strength as we go.
At least for the time being. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Commissioner McGuire.
I feel like you can sit down. I'm just going to say that I'm so grateful to all the work that you all have been doing. And when I have you in front of me, I feel like, oh, now's my time. I can ask all my questions. But I'm sure there's other times that I'm going to be able to do that. But I remember when I got the notice about our new public health director, Sarah Hawley, and I thought, oh, no. We need her in research. We need her in our racial equity and community engagement response team. What we do? And I thought, oh, of course it's going to be great that she's in public health, because she can continue to do all of that work. And just so grateful to all of you. But we're just so excited. Incoming Director Holly, that you're going to be with us in that role. So I'm going to ask a question. So then are we going to, because we're going to be continuing our racial equity and community engagement response team, so we'll be hiring for that position, or just curious where we're at with Sarah's
going to be
position?
doing a double role.
Is Sarah going to be doing double? Now Sarah's doing double. Okay, great. Yeah.
Go ahead with the real answer.
Okay, so we know we have people that are really good at that, but we just don't want to.
No, Madam Chair, Commissioner, we'll do that work. I think that's a future piece.
Yeah.
There are a few spaces that are going to actually be open, because Mi Cheng was serving as an interim in one of those roles as well.
Right.
There are 2 big spots where you'll see actually a series of hirings across the summer as we move into the second half of it. The Policy and Planning Division, Elizabeth Tolzman's been planning, her whole team kind of through COVID, moved on to new opportunities in the county. And now this racial and health equity administrator position, which will require a partnership across the deputy county manager and the policy director for where they sit. So more to come in both spaces, but big opportunities to continue to bring talent to the organization and uplift talent within.
Thank you.
Absolutely, great, thank you.
Okay, that's a better answer.
Thanks, everyone, yeah.
So before we move on, let's just take a moment of mindfulness. So we continue through our recovery from so many things. We use the moment of mindfulness to help center ourselves and move ourselves on in the resolute posture of addressing all that is best for our community. Thank you. Commissioner McGuire has the administrative agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with that, I would like to move the administrative items. Item number 3, agreements for emergency management, professional services, and training and exercise services. Item number 4, access agreement with Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District for Grass Lake Wetland Replacement Monitoring Project in Vadnais Snail Lakes Regional Park. Thank you. Number 5, Ramsey County 2021 Cooperative Deer Management Program. Number 6, repurchase of a tax forfeited property located at 1889 Fairmont Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55105. Number 7, 2022 bonding project prioritization.
Cool.
Thank you. Number 8, reappointments to committees of the Citizens Advisory Council. Number 9, appointment of National Association of Counties voting delegates for 2021 annual conference. Number 10, the 2021 report of contracts, grant and revenue agreements, emergency purchases, sole source, single source purchases, and final payments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second on all items except numbers 4 and 7. Is there any discussion on those items moved forward? Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham. Aye. Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. Then we'll go back to item number 4. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move item number 4. Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. We'll go to discussion. Welcome, Commissioner Fretham. I hope your child care worked out, or actually it's kindergarten. Pre-K.
Pre-K, unfortunately, the bus didn't know about that. So special thank you to Ms. Teresa, Ms. Kendra, and Ms. Caitlin, who let me leave my daughter at pre-K before it starts. I just wanted to note, this one, it said there was no known racial equity impact, and I just wanted to reiterate that along the Beltline and in the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District, the flooding issues that we're experiencing in Snail Lake Regional Park and the Grass Lake area, some of the improvements this access is used to make sure that they're working. There are a significant number of affordable homes and concentrated areas of racial and ethnic diversity along the Beltline, and those are many of the homes at most risk of a flooding incident. So making improvements along this waterway and checking it does have a direct racial equity impact. So I just wanted to note that because it wasn't noted in the RBA.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your noting that. I know that you have moved the item forward, but it is important to recognize that we have the form as it is to note racial equity impact, and that there is significant impact there. Are there other comments? All right. Would the clerk please call the roll?
McGuire.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. That item has passed, and we'll move on to number 7. Is there-
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the proposed recommendation here. On the RBA, it talks about supporting the 2022 bonding request and priorities as follows in list 6. I would amend the motion to list the top 3 as moving forward, and then continuing to work with our legislative champions on number 4, 5, and 6. They all have bills introduced already and are already a part of the process, and the top 3 are the 3 that I would suggest we move on to the governor and MMB for consideration and support in their recommendations.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for the amendment. And the second, there's discussion. Commissioner Fretham?
Thank you. I do support the idea of reducing the number, although I would draw the line after item number 4. I think the rush line is really critical, and with the passing in this last session of funding for the E line and the F line, I think continuing that momentum and continuing our commitment to this rush line project is really important for our goals of full access and transportation equity across the entire Ramsey County area. So I would prefer 4 were included as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well. Knowing that we have these that are being set up for the governor and for MMB, there is a special process of prioritizing and delivering a number. And my concept here is that it is important to reduce, that we have had some of these moving forward in the past, and that our support is for the Gibbs Farm. The Rush Line and the Riverview have been on our agenda for quite a while. And as we determine what to move forward in our top priorities for MMB and the governor's bonding tour, I am concerned that we make certain we are lifting up those for which we have greatest opportunity in that particular process, and that we know we are not ignoring those that have been prioritized on our agenda in the past. They're still on our legislative agenda. So thank you for noting that as a special need, that we continue to lift them up, as we will, whether we include this as a number 4 or not. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was a little concerned when I first thought about this as well. However, I think that because of the fact that we just finished the environmental assessment, we will be transitioning Rush Line to the Met Council later this fall. And so for that reason, I do think it's important that we focus in on the top 3. And obviously, you know how strongly I feel about Rush Line and honestly, the equity issues that are involved in that, where we really need to focus in on that. I think that the work that we are doing right now is through that, and we're in a transition period. I mean, we're already working with Metro Council, but that actual official handoff will be later this fall. That we will continue to be as strong and make sure that we are delivering an accurate message regardless of what is out there, because I can tell you there's a lot of stuff out there that is simply untrue. And really, the issues around equity really need to be emphasized more than anything else. In fact, even more than the bonding request that we have. So the strength of Ramsey County and its support of Rush Line is unwavering, absolutely unwavering. But this particular thing, because of the way it is situated, I am fine with that being dropped off of here. We will be working very closely with Metropolitan Council as we move forward with this. But I think that it's important that we do that in tandem as well. So that's why I am okay with this, and I wanted to make sure that that was understood, so that, again, the other 2 that are on there as well, we're not less supportive by any means, but for this MMB process and the governor's process, I am fine with it being with the top 3.
So we're still in discussion on the amendment. Commissioner McGuire?
Yeah, I just want to thank Commissioner Reinhardt, thank Commissioner Fetham for bringing this up because it does allow us to affirm our support for all of these projects, but in this particular proposal, we want to really prioritize the top three, and Lord knows it's hard to prioritize because we do support all of these projects. But we do want to let MMB know that we are very focused on these top three for their purposes, but we do support all of the projects. But I support the amendment as well.
So before, Commissioner Fetham.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion, which is why I wanted to raise it more than anything else. Victoria, or Commissioner Reinhardt, I really appreciate your perspective on this and your expertise and longstanding with this project. So I will defer and support the amendment, but just an opportunity to note that, you know, with Rush Line and with the F Line running to Northtown Mall, we have a real opportunity if we are able to expand the A Line, extend that north, especially as we look to moving forward with Rice Creek Commons. That also provides an opportunity to get east-west routes along that route from Rush Line to the A-Line extension across 96, and from the A-Line extension to the F-Line to Northtown Mall along County Road 10. So there's a huge opportunity here to keep pushing forward with the dream of a really interconnected multimodal transit network. So thank you for the opportunity to raise that and discuss this in the meeting.
Thank you. That's exactly what our meetings are for. So I appreciate that you brought it up too. Not just for us to discuss, but for all to hear. It's important to know that this is what we are doing. We are focusing on that interconnected network of corridors that we've been building, and that is the normal work that we do. It's important, it's critical, and we won't drop it. Commissioner.
Well, and again, thank you, first of all, for the compliments. But I just, it's so important that people understand, because as they're listening to our conversation this time and every other time that we talk about an integrated multimodal transit system, that we're not talking about, and don't get me wrong, the regular commuter buses and things and transit is really important. But when you talk about the economic impact, the equity impact, that's really accomplished through these, the multi-use, I guess, because it's not just commuter, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. This is about a quality of life. This is about our economy and remaining viable for all. And that goes right back to our prosperity, opportunity, well-being, and accountability for all. So I appreciate the fact that we were able to talk about this as well, because this is Rush Line and what we're trying to do with the entire system. It's not just one line that we're ever talking about. It's about our entire system and how important that is.
Commissioner Mascazio.
I just feel left out since everyone else is talking. So for Jim, I thank you for this amendment. I really appreciate it. I also want to remember that this isn't about things dropping off our priority list. It's really about lifting up the three that we are the champions for. So the Rush Line, Riverview, Gibbs Farm have other champions. We are the primary champions for River's Edge, the Rice Street revitalization, and Bruce Vento. So it is a strategic move to lift up our highest priorities, in that we are the sole champions and we need a little work, and we want to make sure that we put that effort behind our team that's working to make those come across this finish line. So just wanted to add that for context.
I'm so glad you did. I was thinking people would think we were only talking about one thing, and no, we're talking about those.
Well, and Madam Chair, I'm glad that you brought that up also, because the Bruce Vento Trail obviously is a big part of Rush Line as well. But the trail system, and when we talk about multimodal, that is a huge issue for us. That is part of being multimodal.
Okay. Yes, it is. And so we've had sufficient conversation on the amendment, I thought.
Sorry, Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
McGuire.
I just have to note that how great is it that someone brings up an amendment and then all the rest of us talk about it, and he doesn't have to say, he doesn't. Jim
Well said
did
by
not
all.
weigh in, and I just think that's a great amendment when you get the support of other people to make your case for you when you bring up the amendment. So well done.
So again, we've had great conversation on the amendment. I'm going to ask you, because we haven't heard from you in a little while, Commissioner McDonough, to please restate the amendment prior to our vote.
Absolutely. The recommendation would be to support the 2022 bonding request and priorities as follows. Item number 1, Park at River's Edge. Item number 2, Rice Street revitalization. And number 3, Bruce Fentel Trail Extension.
Thank you. And so I believe we're ready for the vote.
McGuire,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
Mattis Castillo,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I do want to take a moment and recognize Jen because we wouldn't have had this kumbaya moment without some of the work that she's done on this. So thank you.
Thank you. That's Jennifer, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think we just voted on the amendment.
Yes, we
Now-
did. And now we need to vote on the main motion. All right. And so we've now amended item number 7, and we're back to the vote on item number 7. Is there any further discussion? Thank you. Let's please call the roll.
McGuire,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
Mattis Castillo,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. Item number 7 has passed, and that takes care of our administrative agenda. We are going to move on then to our legislative update. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as we were finishing that last item, I made a note. Thank Government Relations Director Jennifer O'Rourke for all the work that she did to make that kumbaya moment happen. So yes, it's really about communication, and it's really about getting your message out, and Jennifer did a great job helping with that. So thank you. Thank you, Director O'Rourke. The legislative report, I want to thank Jennifer as well for pulling this together. So we all know the legislature technically finished their business last Wednesday, as we had hoped and as they had said. But the twist is, of course, that the Senate did not adjourn, and they are meeting today. The House adjourned sine die, but the Senate wanted to keep their group open so that they could make sure that the governor signed the budget bills, but also so that they could hold hearings today for the confirmation of some of the commissioners, the governor's cabinet. This can be a political time when the Senate needs to confirm the governor's appointees to his cabinet, and there are several commissioners that have not yet been confirmed. So the Senate has been holding out on that, and now they're going to be hearing some of those appointments. So I'll just give you a few of them that are going to be, we think are going to be considered. The Minnesota Pollution and Control Agency, Laura Bishop, the Department of Natural Resources Commissioner Sarah Stroman, and Minnesota Housing Commissioner Jennifer Ho are potentially, they're going to be considered for appointment or non-appointment, as we've seen the Senate also do. So we are hopeful that the governor gets to keep his cabinet, but that remains in the Senate's hands right now. And of course, if they do not confirm them, then the governor needs to reappoint someone else. So that will be happening today. Also,
On that point,
yes, yeah.
Commissioner
Yes,
Reinhardt.
I just wanted to point out that, you know, when you say it could be political, there's no doubt about this being political.
It's very political. Thank you.
But I
Yeah,
think
that was stated too lightly. Thank you. Yeah.
But I think also the fact that it's unfortunate that in this climate that we are seeing the disrespect for an incredibly honorable position as far as the Senate and the House and the governor and how everyone works together, that the Senate did not announce, I mean, they did it behind closed doors, and knowing that they can basically stick it to the governor, and it has nothing to do with the abilities, all the work that has been done by these commissioners during COVID, has nothing to do with qualifications or even how well they've worked with the Senate. And so I just am really saddened by the fact that these 3 women, and it is noted that it is 3 women, that they're going to target because they can. And that makes me sad.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. That is well said, and you're absolutely right. It is really about politics, and that is not appropriate. So thank you for your great words. I'll just end my report, Madam Chair, by saying that our government relations staff is working on a summary then of what the legislature did. And so we know that they'll be coming back to us with that final report. We are grateful that counties did reasonably well. Of course, never as well as I would have liked it, and I think this board would have liked them to do. But that we didn't lose as much ground as we could have, but it's due to our great staff that they were working hard to make sure that we, did as well as we did. So, and we did, we're working with our federal and state partners in terms of the American Rescue Plan money dollars, so we will be, getting reports on all of that. The legislature is supposed to come back in September for a special session to decide how to spend $250 million in direct payments to frontline workers during the pandemic. So that's out there. So the governor will be calling them back in a special session for that. And with that, I don't know if there's any other questions, but thank you.
Thank you very much for the update. County Manager O'Connor for County Connections.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll take through a few quick ones, and we'll end with a state fair update. Deputy County Manager Scott Williams is here to give us our weekly Tuesday update. Shoreview Library, yesterday the air conditioning went out. It was down near the end of the day. Big shout out to library staff, Karen Saltis, property management, Joanna Berg, who worked on this hard. And yesterday it was, we don't think we'll be able to open in time. And then this morning I got an early text that said we're opening on time. And that's a real credit to the property management team. So Shoreview Library is back up and open on regular hours as of today. And the air conditioning is working, which is important this time of year. Just a brief update on the Employee Flex Workplace survey. Like I mentioned last week, 2,000 employees responded to that survey, about half the workplace. We had our first flexible workplace policy team meeting this last week. We meet every 3 weeks now going forward, both up until Labor Day and then beyond, quite frankly, because this is more than a one-shot moment in time. It's going to be a years-long process. We have 5 working groups across all sorts of different areas happening. There were dozens of focus groups that occurred as well to go deeper with areas that maybe had more experience in working off-site or to take on specific concerns or issues. The biggest thing that stood out right now that I can just highlight at like a very high level, when in our first meeting we were talking about how we're moving forward and how to digest all this information, and it was, for me, it's like what stands out right away. And the piece that stood out was 9 out of 10 employees are hoping for some level of flexible work for employees that have the ability to do it, right? I always need to acknowledge not everyone has that type of flexibility, and we need to build a workplace that works for everyone, not only for those who may have that flexibility. But 9 out of 10 expressed an interest in flexible work. A very small number of them said, I never want to work in an office again. That was not by any means an overwhelming number. It's actually a smaller segment than I'd probably expect. And then about 1 out of every 10 employees said, I would like a full-time space in an office or in a building. We've committed to the idea that if you need a space to be able to come into work every day, because everyone has different situations at home, that will be a part of our approach. But the other part of that approach is how do we accommodate 9 out of 10 employees who said, we're on to something here, but I'm also missing some things during this as we go. And so we've been talking about this before. It surprised us the number of 9 out of 10 employees was surprising. I would have guessed 65%, 70, 75%, but the 90% really stands out. And so there's a lot here, great opportunity in front of us, huge challenge. I'll keep providing just little updates as we go, as we move forward, but it's an exciting moment for the organization. You'll get an email. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll pause, Madam Chair.
Commissioner McDonough?
You know what? Thank you, Madam Chair, on that point. I just want to make sure, I know we got really smart people on this, but we can't end up being the spot where the only people that show up in an office are the people that can't make accommodations for themselves in their homes, because then we're starting a segmentation, which probably will wind up in some inequities on who can manage working from whom and who can't. And I just want to make sure as we're moving forward on this, we don't unintentionally set up a system where we're supporting folks here and supporting folks here, but it really does become an equity issue because of resources or opportunities or even support within their own family structures or their networks where they can manage this, but these people can't.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, I appreciate the comment. We are fully aligned on that. And the one piece I'll say, this question comes up almost every week. So are you going to have a workplace where there's all virtual areas? And the answer is no. We are not moving toward an all virtual workplace anything. You lose the ability to find connection. I think where the sweet spot lies, and I don't want to get out in front of the feedback too far, so this is a little bit my own personal take, and I want to acknowledge that it's not for sure what we've heard. It's the idea that there's a certain amount of time where people need and require that collaborative space to both meet, to ask questions of others, to be able to have advancement opportunities, to be able to see other humans. And as we've even started to see people come back in the office, we see and feel that. I can personally express that as a part of the work. The flip side is there is a lot of time that gets spent in, I came in to do 9 things today and I got caught and cornered by 4 people and I didn't get done what I wanted to do, and residents end up not getting served in the way I wanted to get through my list today. And the efficiency seen through some of the work when we were able to work remotely had huge outcome benefits. How do you marry the two in a way where both are a part of that solution and an expectation of what we do going forward? So hopefully that helps to slightly address that.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Well, and I think because of the thoughtful way that we're doing this, the opposite could happen as well, where we would be able to, if we're doing this correctly, there are some folks that maybe wouldn't be able to come into a full-time sitting in an office, where we can open up opportunities. And I'm thinking of, for example, some folks with certain disabilities that can do the job, but they can't necessarily physically get every single day. So we've got opportunities here to not only, the possibility is absolutely there that you could make the gap bigger, but if we do this right, we could make it even more equitable. And so it's a huge thing, you're right. It's not something that's just like, okay, on or off. It's how do we really make sure that we give the opportunities that we want to our employees so that they can serve our residents. So it all comes back together. So yeah, I'm glad that you're not trying to rush through this because we've got some opportunities here, but the challenges, and I think that's what I'm trying to say, is we have opportunities and we have challenges with it as well. We've got to really be careful on how we do this.
Thank you for the thoughtfulness. I think it does require quite a bit of thought to take advantage of those opportunities, to make sure that we're not ignoring the places where we have gaps as well, and not to have one accommodate for the other, of course, but to ensure that we're looking across the board at how we accommodate for all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reinhardt, and everyone, I'll just end on the part of, you almost have to go through a 30-minute of let's get out the angst of all of the pieces that could be a challenge here to go to the part of then, so where do we go and what do the opportunities look like? Because it's huge, and everybody's work scenario is slightly different, and family scenario and demands from a caregiver perspective and other pieces. I think the last thing I would just say is where we are in September 1st of 2021 will likely look different than where we are at September 1st of 2022. And I don't exactly know what that means, but we need to be flexible even with a flexible workplace policy in terms of implementation and feedback and continual movement as we go. Sorry, I lost my place. The corrections, community corrections will send out an update to you all this afternoon. The reducing revocations challenge that Ramsey County was one of, I'm going to say about a dozen, maybe a few less than that, jurisdictions across the country participated in with the Robina Institute and City College of New York. That is now out, that report, and it shows, it's a detailed report about Ramsey County specifically. There's a global cohort learnings to it, but the report itself has a ton in it about both where the county has been, the trajectory we're moving on, and as we talk about all the different pieces of justice reform work happening, revocations for a long time have been a challenge for this community. We have been at the bottom of the list in terms of revocations for the wrong reasons, and seeing a focus on it with the detail that's coming forward is huge. We'll come back and talk more about it at future committees of the whole. I just got the report last week and started to dig into it, and I said, I'll highlight it here. We'll get a note out to all of you please take a few moments if you get a chance to read it. My final update, and then I'll go to you, Scott. We had our first in-person job fair, so a follow-up on that. It happened last week, and I know Commissioner McDonough was there. And Commissioner Carter, they're in the picture, so they may have more thoughts. But we had over 300 job seekers show up, and there were vaccines given as well. Public pathways were there. The weather was good. It was a really uplifting and momentum-building event, I think, for workforce and the entire county team, including HR as well, as we continue to work to reconnect coming out of COVID and build a stronger community in which everyone has access to opportunity. Final update of the day goes to Deputy County Manager Scott Williams on the State Fair.
Thank you. Welcome.
Scott Williams, Deputy County Manager for our Safety and Justice Service Team. And for those who are viewing our audience around the State Fair, the issue is with the retirement of the Chief of Police for the State Fair. Sometime this past spring, the State Fair Board elected to discontinue having its own police department. They've had their own police department for decades. That's how they've provided security services for the State Fair, not only during the 2 weeks of the fair, but also the other 50 weeks of the year to provide 24/7 security for the fairgrounds and for special events that they held throughout the year. Instead of continuing with their own police department, they elected to partner with an established law enforcement agency, and they approached our sheriff's office after a period of talks and negotiations. On June 9th, the sheriff advised notified commissioners that he wanted the county to enter into an agreement with the State Fair for providing services for State Fair security. We had a board workshop on June 22nd. The day after the board workshop, just to make sure we had good level setting with our risk managers, their risk managers, our attorneys, their attorneys, and State Fair staff and our staff corralled everyone into a meeting just to make sure everybody was operating off the common set of information and had the shall we say, the appropriate level of urgency to keep this moving forward. I'm happy to report that worked very well. One of the outcomes of that meeting was the State Fair risk management folks said, or the state's risk management folks said, hey, we need the agreement as we go out into the marketplace, because they decided they wanted to cover the liability on this through an insurance policy that they would purchase through the private marketplace. Kudos to our legal team, Sam Clark's team, having already started leaning into this right after June 9th to start preparing a joint powers agreement. We were able to deliver a really, really good, solid draft joint powers agreement to the State Fair within 2 days of that meeting. And it looks really good, and it does a great job of meeting commissioners' expectations about protecting our residents from any and all liability arising out of providing the services under these agreements. Actually, there'd be 2 agreements, one for the 2 weeks of the State Fair, another agreement to cover all of the other services 24/7, the other 50 weeks of the year. So our county attorney's office did a fabulous job getting this done very quickly. And our HR department also started leaning into this right away and doing what needed to be done once we knew that this was the trajectory. The state is actively engaged in the marketplace, looking for policies. We know this because of the information flow back and forth with our risk manager, and the information that they're asking from us around. Information about the training and the policies of our sheriff's office, and also some of the claims history, because we're getting questions from potential underwriters. They're getting questions from potential underwriters about the claims history. Some of it we think is important and relevant. Others, we don't think is quite on point. And so we're having a meeting today with the state risk management folks and our risk manager to work through that and make sure, and the sheriff's office, to make sure that we get them the information that they need so they can continue to engage underwriters in the marketplace. So that meeting is happening today. And then checking in late last week with both the sheriff's office and our human resources department, both report that the hiring The recruiting for part-time deputies from other agencies, from other sheriff's offices, from other police departments is going well. Because we will need, as the sheriff reported on the 22nd, we're going to need a lot of help. And they've put out the word. I know this Department of Public Safety has helped spread the word and asking for assistance, and that appears to be working. And again, they report that recruiting is going well.
Final piece of the update, Madam Chair, and we take any questions if anyone has any. The final joint powers agreement would obviously be subject to coming back to the board for final review and approval. And so right now is all the preliminary work to bring that back here. And I think I'll end there, and we'd stand for any questions. That concludes today's County Connections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What an incredible team effort has occurred since the workshop. And of course, that is what is required to deliver on time and with the protections that we need for all our residents. I want to say thank you for taking charge of this work as our Deputy for Safety and Justice. Your connections to the departments, to the critical departments from our county, as well as to our policy department, our human resources, contracting and procurement, all who had to lean in and get this work done are important. And I want to say thank you to you as well as to the state and those at the state in public safety and admin, of course, our governor, who paid attention to, leaned into to make certain that we would make these arrangements. And before I go to others, I just have to ask a question. You spoke about the joint powers agreement, which we were able to deliver to the state and to the state fair, and that was done, on short order, of course, because of our legal department, our county attorney, and the work that they did to help us through. Have we then delivered to the state, just clarifying the responsibility, or they have taken on the responsibility for finding that insurance policy, but that yet has not been responded to? Are we still looking for the response to secure that insurance policy, or has that been done? Do you know what I'm saying? Do we have the protection at this point in time? Are we waiting for a response as to how that protection will be provided?
Madam Chair, the state is actively engaged in the marketplace right now to acquire that policy. And in order to answer the underwriters' questions, potential underwriters' questions, they need more information from us, and that's what the meeting today is about. But they understand that that it's their role to acquire and pay for this insurance.
All right.
And that is conveyed very clearly, and they've gotten the message.
Okay, you probably said that at the end, and I was still thinking, I got to ask this question. So thanks again for reaffirming that. I have two commissioners with questions, Commissioner Reinhardt and Commissioner McGuire.
Well, first of all, thank you for the great work, Sam and Scott, and all the staff that has been involved in this, because I know that when we sat here and talked through the issues, the issue of liability and risk were at the forefront for our employees, for the contract employees, for our residents, for the state, for what we are doing here as a county. And at the time, as you will recall, we were told, oh, well, we'll take care of that. Well, it's turned out, obviously, that it isn't as easy to take care of that as was first imagined, or not by us, I guess, but by others. And so this has put, I think, everybody, asking those hard questions, put everybody in a better spot. Because the state fair would have been really caught between a rock and a hard place, and we would have been in the middle of that in addition. So I think that all of this hard work has really paid off for all involved, not just for Ramsey County. So the liability issue, and I'm sure that they are very active, because we all know that this has to be done relatively soon. I mean, it has to be done in July to really make sure that we're moving forward and knowing that liability coverage can be purchased. And I don't think there's really a question about whether it can. It's probably more about what it will cost the state fair to do that. Or they would have probably already been told that it wasn't available to them. So I think that that is something that is incredibly important, that we keep that in our sights. And one of the big issues that we had was about our own employees and whether or not they would be covered for their actions. And because they weren't, because of the contractual relationship with the state fair and what they used to have as far as their own police force, and thinking it was the same, but it isn't. So that, I'm feeling really good about all of that. Now, the one other thing that I really want to make sure, and Susan is in the audience here, as far as the, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself here. But the CFO and the dollars that are coming in and how they are covering what the costs that we have, and that those costs, as far as how we are, you know, it's our county budget, I guess, is really what it comes down to. It's not an individual department to do what they want with the funds to cover or not cover. This is part of our budget. And I want to make sure that it is viewed in that way, because there have been too many instances where funds have come in and they're being used in other ways that we have not been a part of. And I don't want that to happen with these funds.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to the county manager for a response there.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, from the conversation here in which the sheriff reiterated while talking to the board, the recognition that the funds would flow to the county as a part of the general county budget. The Joint Powers Agreement reflects that in terms of the draft Joint Powers Agreement reflects that in terms of the mechanism. The CFO has been a part of reviewing all of the work to date. She currently feels comfortable with the arrangement as designed. We will specifically address that issue if we are able to get to the point to present a draft Joint Powers Agreement to the board in the coming weeks.
Thank you. And thank you for that question, affirmation as well. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Those are great questions, and some of them, one of them is what I was going to ask about, which is, of course, the issue that I think was on most of our mind, was on all of our minds during the workshop, was on the liability. And so I'm assuming that the Joint Powers Agreement draft will come back to us with no liability to Ramsey County, then, that this is going to be borne by the state, since it's a state institution and a state event. So will the sheriff's employees be hired by the state fair then? Will they become employees of the state fair, or will we still be, because they'll still be employees of Ramsey County, or will that will be covered in the Joint Powers Agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, most of the employees would be under a Ramsey County employee designation underneath as temporary employees of the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, as Deputy County Manager Williams mentioned. Hennepin County and the state patrol are in a slightly different spot, so that would be a part of what comes back our way. But the insurance piece to it, regardless of employment status, the insurance still would address that issue. We assume they're out in the private market right now. We don't have a final anything in front of us.
Thank you. I was just curious about that specific item. Thank you for that. And then I was curious that the state fair didn't already have these provisions in place with the state, because it is a state fair, and that they wouldn't have this liability insurance already set up. So moving forward, and for the duration of all the other events at the fair, for the not during the August fair, but through all the other events, the state will continue to cover all those, or have they always covered all those? I mean, just because they're in Ramsey County, that doesn't have any liability for Ramsey County, right? The fair would have coverage for all of their other activities through the state. And was that always happening, and will that continue to happen?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, as I mentioned earlier, the State Fair has had their own police department for decades, and up until very recently, the activities of the State Fair Police Department were covered as part of the state's risk management pool. going forward, if, assuming that there's an agreement with the state fair, that the board approves some kind of agreement going forward, it will be all of the 24/7, 365 days a year services that are provided under these agreements going forward would continue to be provided. The liability protection and insurance would be provided by the state, but they're choosing to do it in a little different way. They're choosing, instead of relying on their self-insurance pool, to go out into the marketplace and provide private insurance. I don't want to speak for the state, but my sense is, just as we as a county continue to reassess our risk and look at our risk profile and change up our strategy from time to time, my sense is that they're at an inflection point here in terms of, okay, so we have this police agency that we've been covering through our risk pool for decades. I think they're taking a fresh look at that, going, you know what, we think going forward we want to do this a little different way. I think they might do that if they were even to continue with their own police department. That's totally speculative on my part, but that's just the impression that I get as I've started this dialogue with them, that they're just taking a fresh look at this and thinking, yeah, we think we're at a point where we want to take a different strategy. And that may or may not be independent of this partnership with the sheriff's office. I think it's just the timing is that they're taking a close look at it and choosing a different strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fretham and then Commissioner McDonough. Oh, I thought I
had no
saw you.
comments.
Then I'll go to
Thank you for
Commissioner
the update.
McDonough. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Madam Chair. One of the other issues that had come up in the workshop that we talked about, but I really haven't heard, and it really doesn't get addressed in a joint powers agreement, it's more about the operations and management, right? It's the impact it has on the statutory requirements of the sheriff currently, operating a jail, providing courthouse security, transportation. He's got already 7 contracts in place with contract cities. How are we ensuring that there isn't an impact? Because we've already seen it. With the car show, we've seen transportation suffer. Well, I've already heard from the bench that, they're seeing a change in how things are operated for them, and they're concerned. So how do we, ensure that, as the sheriff is choosing to take on this added responsibility, which is huge, we're not having this impact with the current responsibilities we have? And then even one step farther, and this is the concern that's been expressed by employees, forced overtime, no vacations, no doctor appointments. These are impacts that have an impact on our workforce and have an effect on them and how they do their job every single day. How are we having some assurances that those things are going to be addressed here that would be outside a joint powers agreement?
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, I'll start with the latter and move back to the former. And I think these are extremely important questions that get beyond. Part of it is trying to bring forward a joint powers agreement that reflects the best of what we heard from that conversation, but it doesn't get to the operational aspects you raised in that specific spot. On the second part, you've all referenced hearing from employees who have expressed concerns and already felt impacts related to staffing changes associated with beginning to be at the state fair as of early June, I believe it was. I don't remember the exact date. What I would say to that is I have continued to try to reach out and understand the level of impact, the scope and scale of that, and don't still have a full great understanding of it at an in-depth level to know how big of it continues to be an issue. It was clearly an issue at one point. Is it still an issue or not is a little bit of a question for me, but one that needs to be addressed. I would say on the first part, I don't have a great answer for you. We've heard the same questions or concerns expressed in different meetings. Scott, we plan on doing another written update next Tuesday, weekly. I would ask if you would be willing to follow up with Chief Deputy Methuselam and Sheriff Fletcher and ask this question around operational balance and how that's being proactively managed and addressed, how it's being addressed with the stakeholders outside of the organization as a part of this work, and we'll come back with more specifics on that next week. There is a part where you're right that it's a management and a leadership decision-making choice piece. We are providing the capacity through the plan where it should not undercut existing operations from the county's perspective, and that's what we will bring before this board to consider. But the deployment of day-to-day resources ultimately is the sheriff's purview, and so we need to continue that dialogue with him.
Madam Chair, if I could follow up.
Please go ahead.
Because we've talked about some of the risks for budget impacts, right? And the liability, I have pretty good confidence that, that's going to get covered through the state. The bigger risk for me is how that's managed, right? Because in the end, forced overtime, if he doesn't get as many outside folks signing up to work as he thinks he is, and all of a sudden, instead of straight time, it's overtime on his folks. And then the day-to-day operations throughout the year, because the state fair has hundreds of events that need to be managed. And so for me, my concern on the budget side is more the management and operational side. And come December, we're going to have, a request for another $2 million because he's taken on this added responsibility that has put us at great risk, and we don't have the assurances that this is going to be managed and operated in a way that doesn't put the taxpayers at risk.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, well said, and I think that's a piece that we all need to continue balancing going forward, but I can't state it any better.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well, and know that partially it is on us in terms of the manner in which we set up those budgets and account for them month to month and receive reporting back. So we'll be sure to ask for that throughout the year so that we know how things are going. Okay. Commissioner McDonough?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, just quickly thinking through this. One of the options here maybe to help minimize the potential for that risk is that this agreement is set up in a way that, we reevaluate whether we want to participate next year based on how this is operated and managed this year, right? If we end up with a $2.5 million bill at the end of the year, I would say we need an out because it's demonstrated that it can't be managed and operated in a way that doesn't, have an impact on taxpayers.
Agreed.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, while I don't have specifics around all of it, I can say with confidence that we will bring forward a proposal that terminates at the end of the year and would require some sort of a renewal or re-up beyond that time frame for the reasons cited here around uncertainty, and we are trying to fill a community void along with the board that clearly exists, but the long-term what remains something that we need to learn first.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the discussion that we had at the workshop. I appreciate that you have pursued that direction as well. Commissioner Matis-Castillo, did I see your hand?
No.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you very much again for this report. And turn back to you for the completion.
No, Madam Chair, I'm done. Thank you for letting me go along here today to share an update on the State Fair.
Thank you very much. So it is a little bit after 10 o'clock. We are at our outside board and committee reports, and the board will have additional work to do starting at 10:30 today.
Madam Chair, we're actually 11:30. I'm sorry if there's a typo on.
I was going to ask for that clarification.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
11:30 on my calendar.
There were a few spots where we did notice on some earlier draft pieces discrepancies. It is an 11:30 start in room 220 downstairs.
My bad.
No, it's actually on our end.
That doesn't mean we have to meet till 11:30 up here, though. We don't have to.
All right, so we are not as tight as I had thought. We will start our board and committee reports, and we can go expeditiously through them. I will begin that with Commissioner Reinhardt.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, there's only one thing that I want to report on, and that is, I think I had mentioned that this was coming up, and it's called Many Faces, Community Conversations on Race. It's for the White Bear Lake area, Matamidi Schools, the City of White Bear Lake, the school districts. I mean, there are a lot of players in this, and it's for the White Bear Lake area. They had their first meeting, and it was Listen and Learn. It's a series of 4 meetings. They're in person, no virtual option because this is very sensitive and yet incredibly valuable information in trying to learn how we actually make change and not just talk about it. So I wanted to make sure that folks knew about this. If they have an interest, they can go to info@manyfaceswblarea.org. That is info@manyfaceswblarea.org. because it was one of the most powerful conversations, or really listening. It was listen and learn. And then also having some one-on-one interaction with folks and kind of trying to look at, okay, what did we hear? And what can we do? And basically trying to build on that then for the next session. However, I don't think you don't have to be at all 4 of them to get value out of them. The second one is on July 29th, and both the July 29th and the August 19th one are going to be held at Vadnais Heights Commons in Vadnais Heights. The last one is on September 23rd, and that one, the location is to be determined. But again, as I said, the first one, which was incredible to participate in, was titled Listen and Learn. The second one is Learn and Lead. The third one is Lead and Act. And the final one is simply Act. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For your update, go to Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you. I just have one update. I just wanted to note that I was appointed to the Subcommittee on Children's Mental Health as a representative of Metro County Commissioners, so look forward to joining them in August.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mas-Castillo.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. On the chain of racial equity and work, today is the five-year anniversary of the killing of Philando Castillo. The city of Falcon Heights and the community abroad has worked really hard for the last 5 years to heal and recover. And so today, on July 6th, is Restoration Day. It's a day to take steps of humility and forgiveness in an effort to build a broader and stronger community in service to those too long suffering. And tomorrow is what they call Unity Day, which then brings people together of all backgrounds through our work moving forward. And as part of that celebration, tonight will be a groundbreaking ceremony for the Peace Garden, long awaited for Peace Garden, this evening at 8 o'clock, along with a prayer vigil. And then tomorrow afternoon on the grounds of City Hall in Falcon Heights, there will be a celebration and community events. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention as we continue to move this work forward. We can't forget to take a moment to pause and remember the importance and the value of this work and why we must continue on this journey. I also wanted to share that the Rice Street redesign open house, final designs for community input and feedback, is coming up on July 14th. Very exciting. And it is a virtual open house, so people can sign up on our website to get the Zoom link to participate in that Rice Street redesign. And then last, I want to give a special shout out to Commissioner McGuire, who's been working really, really hard over these last several months. As we won't be here together next week because we'll be at the National Association of Counties Conference, and hope to elect her as our second vice president to represent us here in Minnesota, but across the country. It's a huge value. And so really, we're excited for you, we're supporting you, but really it's important for everyone to know, because this is a voice that Minnesota hasn't had in nearly 20 years, and certainly not Ramsey County. And so we are excited for that and support you as we move forward into NACO.
Thank you for mentioning that. We'll be celebrating that when we return here on July 20th. Commissioner McDonough?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll say a few more words about the, I have a mental block, what we call it, but the career fair that was held last Tuesday that County Manager O'Connor talked about in his update. And the chair was there also, but Commissioner Grove was able to be there and tour. We had Ling and her team just did an amazing job. I think it was the first actual in-person one in the state. M. Fairview was there with literally thousands of job opportunities, and Dr. Bruce Corey was there representing 12 businesses that couldn't be there because they run their businesses and they were looking for 1, 2, or 3 employees, right? So we really covered the gamut. The demand was so high, they had to turn away businesses who wanted to participate, and people were leaving there with great opportunities to connect careers, and so it was really good. We did follow up later in the day with a conversation with Commissioner Grove, as there's been a lot of pressure here to open up our Career Force centers because they're still closed. And the vision in deed moving forward, as all of us are taking a look at how do we, what does operations look like moving forward? And deed certainly, and the commissioners certainly have a vision of less in person and much more digital, electronic connection with workforce. We have sent the letter that I've signed as our WIB rep, as has Hennepin, Dakota, and Anoka County as their WIBs, really pushing the commissioner indeed to take a look at that and continue to have conversations with us. We need that career force open. We need a site. We need a physical place for people to come, to get support, to get connected to those jobs. And so that's an ongoing conversation. I do give the commissioner a lot of credit. He wants to listen. He wants to hear from us. And he also recognizes, what job seekers and employers need in Ramsey, Hennepin, Dakota, Anoka, Washington is different than what Russell County or Redwood County need, right? And he recognizes that, and so we'll continue to move forward in conversations, but there is a strong sense of impatience about getting these Career Force Center opened and available to our folks in Ramsey County.
Thank you.
Ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner Mascasio, then Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. I think that's really important, especially as we think about our immigrant community and as we talked earlier about our own workforces, that we don't want that further divide as people are seeking employment. Is there any sense of a timeline when a decision will be made?
Quickly. I think there may be this, at least getting one state person in there to get the center opened and starting to make connections. He's proposed that instead of just walk-in, that it would be reservation only. Those are some of the things that we have some concerns about, but we're willing to take whatever we can get to get the center opened and moving forward. And we're going to hold the commissioner to his word that he's willing to continue to evolve and respond as community needs would dictate that response to be.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
Well, it may not seem like there's a connection to what I'm about to say, but there actually is, because I wanted to note that White Bear Lake is in the middle of Manitou Days right now. It runs through July 11th, and we also have Market Fest, and that is every Thursday night from 6 to 9 through August 5th. The reason that it is connected is because an employer was there. I was there with my grandchildren and my family, and actually this person came up and said, "Do you need a job?" And I said, "He's 11." So, and basically saying that, employers are desperate, but they're not going to get an 11-year-old. So that is where the connection is. But I wanted to make sure that folks knew that Market Fest is happening in person, 6 to 9 on Thursday evenings, and it is a blast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGuire. Thank you. I have three things I'm going to talk about. The first is that we had an opening of a Highway 8 Business Center in New Brighton a couple weeks ago on Thursday, and I just want to give a huge shout out to our Community and Economic Development Department, Economic Development Specialist, Rick Howden, who's newer to Ramsey County, but it did a great job making connections and creating partnerships and working with our Environmental Response Fund, that they were able to open up this very polluted business center in conjunction with, it was the city, the state, Met Council, and our county. And so they got funds from all of those places, cleaned up the business center, and now they're bringing in 5 or 6 different businesses, 100 jobs, and this was a site that laid vacant for years. And so without, the developer Hillcrest is an amazing developer, really cleaning up polluted properties. And, it was a challenge that no one wanted to take on until they got all those partners together. Hillcrest said, well, I think we can do it, but we need some help. Rick Howden said, I think we can do this much. And Met Council said, we can do this much. And Indeed, and it was such a great event. So just huge shout out to everyone, the city of New Brighton and Hillcrest Development and all of the businesses that are now going in there. So it was just exciting and fun to be there. It was a really hot day, but it was a great time to celebrate. The second thing is Dave Bartholomew, who many of us know. He's been doing a lot of work with the Association of Minnesota Counties, our state association. He works with the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution. We had a little going away party on Zoom with AMC on last Monday. And he's retiring from his work, but he's still staying mayor. He's going to stay running for mayor of Circle Pines. But he wants to do some writing, and he wants to continue with some of his leadership work that he's doing, but he's leaving the state. And huge loss for the state, but he says he'll continue to work for counties, so we're excited about that. But just a huge shout out to Dave Bartholomew, who has just done great work for in leadership. Yeah, he is if you know him, he's just amazing. So best of luck to him, and we know he'll stay in touch, so that's great. And then, of course, thank you, Commissioner Mattis Castillo, for the big news that's going on in my life and many of us around this table who've been working these last 6 months, or 5 months anyway, on this big deal of running for NACO second vice president. I want to thank you so much, Commissioner Mattis Castillo, Commissioner McDonough, Commissioner Carter, Reinhardt, for the people that have been doing so much work, and I couldn't do it without all of you. And I will just say that it's just such an honor to be running for this from Ramsey County. When I make my calls I'll get a little emotional. When I make my calls throughout the country, and I say I'm from Ramsey County, they say, oh my gosh, that is the most amazing county. You are doing such amazing work there. And oh, isn't that the county? I just got an email yesterday. Isn't that you must be on the board with Jim McDonough. He did a great job on this board that I'm on. And oh, Victoria, Commissioner Reinhardt and I served together. Commissioner Carter, it's just amazing the response that I get from all of you, the work that all of you have done with our National Association, and we know how important that work is. The connections that we make with our federal partners, with our colleagues throughout the country, really helps us with the work that we're doing. The American Rescue Plan dollars. This was crucial that we educate Congress on that, and it was because of all of our work and our association of NACO that we were able to get the response from the federal government that we needed in this really challenging time. So it's really important work. Next week is the big week, next Monday, and so we're really hopeful. We're feeling positive, and we know that the work that we've done is, we've just laid such great groundwork for that, and just looking forward to it, and just thank all of you for that, and we hope we're bringing back good news. But whatever the case is, we'll be continuing to work hard with our National Association and continuing to do the great work that we've all been doing for so many years and will continue to do so. And thanks to AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties, who's been doing a ton of work as well, just to get our names out there. But it's really a group effort. It's a county effort, and it's because of all the work of all of you. So thank you. So it's great.
Thank you very much. And applause to you for stepping up into this important opportunity to help lead our counties nationwide. It's a lot of work, and so we appreciate that you are willing to stand for that. All the support that you are getting is because it is an opportunity for our state, for counties in Minnesota to be aligned with and at the forefront of that work on legislation and policy and best practices, and bringing all of that back here so that Minnesota and specifically our Ramsey County residents can benefit. We are looking forward to working with you at the national conference. So I just want to wrap up by sharing that I had a wonderful time also enjoying the job fair that Workforce Solutions delivered in the Midway this past week. Thank you to Commissioner McDonough for all of your work with the Workforce Investment Board and with Director Becker and the others who stood tall in delivering that first in the state and first of many for Ramsey County job fairs that will continue to occur to connect people to career opportunities to the opportunity to work and support their families and grow in Ramsey County. I want to thank all that were there, our businesses that were there with us in the Midway for that fair. Many have been mentioned, Target, Medica, and others who just were there the full time. I think it went from morning until about 2 o'clock, and Commissioner McDonough mentioned 300 folks who were there looking for those opportunities. And as the stride gets set, we're able to move from community to community and be expected. I know that our director has an expectation that the participation will pick up and we will help many to shift into their new roles and opportunities in Ramsey County. Also want to mention that after our board meeting today, we do have an 11:30 lunch and learn. The board will continue its work in that session today. And then at 1:30 today, a closed meeting for a legal matter, which will take place downstairs, our first time downstairs in our workshop room this afternoon. Again, that will be at 1:30. And with that, if there are no further questions or issues, our board meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. And one more, please. Abby, thank you so much for your spirit.
So I think you have a draft agenda. It just says that it's
Always do. Sometimes
So I actually saw this morning.
Good workout, running in.
Anyway, 10:30 or 1:30, and then I checked and we got it all fair. I was like, oh, it's good.
Okay.
Just so you're aware. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. No?
Okay. I said, I know the story. Phone numbers in it, if you go look.
Okay. Thank you.
Now or whatever. I also sent you what I had on it, the remaining info, so you have everything.
You sent me the email this morning, you said? Okay, got it.
No,
No
I
problem.
missed it.
No, you know what? I am glad you and, let me see, Jennifer are catching me this morning, because I have just been told.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I really did.
That's good. So I'm here today and tomorrow, and I'm out Thursday.
Great, wonderful. How long will you be out?
Jim made it,
How long?
helped us, so we're gonna do it like for Jim.
Okay, great, thanks.
I want Jim's, I can do Jim's hotels, I'm actually, whatever works, So, anyway, I wanted to.
Have to address trees on their property, please visit stpaul.gov/EAB.
Bernie Bear here to talk to you about carbon monoxide and carbon monoxide alarm.